because it's not about the minority that needs to understand the majority. It's for the majority to understand the minority, and how we as the millennials and actually Gen Zs understand what we don't understand.
Has our pursuit for a better work environment not been to somewhat extent to our detriment? Why I say that is, if you look at Google, one of the best work environments ever, right? Get the couches, you get everything else. But the way we interpret this information, so say for example, I go on Google now, start my company, and I just see these good offices, couches, there's a PlayStation, there's so much available, it's the fun workspace. But I've forgotten about the productivity. I've focused on the fun workspace. Where then I take that information and we form a company. Say we do 6 or 7 jobs, whatever it is, and we're now generating income. The staff members that then come in, because I've seen the Google's fun workspace, but I haven't seen the work ethic, I then say, let's all create a fun workspace where we all have a good time and high five each other.
Around the
That's
campfire.
it, So I think the biggest problem, if I'm referring to Africa, it's our interpretation of information that we're getting. So we get people fighting for rights, which is one thing. We get people changing their behaviors, get people living the lavish life, or copying what we see. But we also don't take consciousness of the environment we're in, the surroundings. I think we struggle to close that gap and say, look, that's great, that's happening there. But what's happening within my community? Could this be relevant? Could this work in terms of production and everything else? And those who are the new generation forming these small companies, or the millennials, the Generation Zs, they're not understanding the responsibility of being a leader within the workplace. Those are lives, those are futures, those are children. And we don't realize it. We see the dollars. Even though we use rands, we see the dollars, the big monies. But we don't realize that when you create a system or a work environment, you're accountable for your staff members. And now, when we look at Steve Jobs, when he was the hire and fire guy, which was Silicon Valley, the new motto, let's all fire and all be, babes, We just adopted that culture, but we don't realize, possibly, where we live, there's a spirit of Ubuntu.
Yes.
There's togetherness. I need to be conscious of what's happening to your family, what's happening to the next person's family.
Exactly.
And we've got a generation where we want the glory, but don't realize that there's responsibility that comes with leadership.
I think just on something that you said, Banner, that the skills are going lost. I'm immediately drawn to the apprenticeship model that expand now recently, also expounded on again. Just and your comments on the microwave effect.
Yeah.
What would happen is literally the father would send his son and literally sign a contract. I'm signing my son away for 7 years to go and learn what this guy can do.
Yeah.
For 7 years. If I were to say to you, Eugene, you're going to come work for me, no pay, 7 years.
You're crazy.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I think not even our generation, I think even the older generations now, currently, we've lost that commitment to mastery.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think the Gen Zs are going to come and maybe not completely fix or take it back to what it was, but a modern apprenticeship model, because they're going to be very critical. They're going to be very almost biased towards any kind of idea, unless they really think I can commit towards this and securely say that I can do this.
Because of the information overload, we are passive in action, and I think the apprenticeship brings back this. I think for the millennials, again, going back to the leadership, the fathering. For us, it's all about purpose, and I will follow if I know it has a purpose. Wikipedia, Facebook, it was a design that wasn't there for money. It was actually free, but how millennials just took that and just grew it into this something massive
multi-billion
space. So that's the one thing, and there's the mastery engages, bring us back to the essence of all this clutter. You said taking from the tree. We've got everything. Baby boomers, Gen X, they started everything and they created the structures.
Yeah. And we're just like,
For us, we're just picking everything and then we're deciding. And in some of it, we like all of it.
yeah.
Like you said,
That's it.
we love it. We love the Google. We love the, but to have that mastery of who we are, going back to our skills, our Gen Z's connected with that is a critical way of thinking. So for them is they won't go work for anybody. They want to know this organization, there's a lasting effect, there's a survival, there's a
We're doing free range chickens and not forced fed chickens.
and it's still safe.
Yep.
It's going somewhere.
Does not come down to that. I think it was Warren Buffett. I don't know who said it, but the chains of habit are too light to be felt until too heavy to be broken.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah, it's good.
Now, as a generation, we've gone away from understanding what habits we're building because everything's coming. Remember, the information's coming, and you don't realize what habits you're building. So, once upon a time, they used to wake up and know there was a routine, but they used to build habits, and they were accountable for everything they did. Whereas now, with the information overload, I can do something now, do something there, and I'm not accountable for the habits I'm picking up. And all of a sudden, I've got so much congestion going on, and voila, big disaster.
And if it, a really stupid example is, where does meat come from? From the fridge section.
From chickens.
From the freeze
Yeah.
section.
They don't realize.
And again, it's everything is already preserved for us, and we need to engage on the go back and say, well, what happened before this? Before the information, where did we get this? Before technology, how was it done?
Yeah.
And what did we lost in the process of?
No, we've lost much.
But is mass media and the industry as a whole not influencing the decisions? Like in terms of chicken, for example, you said the free range, and you've got the other guys. Now, if I own a company, I'm trying to push products to the market. I don't really care what happens to the 4 or 5 people or the next community. Free range take time. It's a process, and you're not really accountable for them on each movement or whatever they do.
And you've
It's a
got more
process.
costs.
That's it.
You have to fertilize the ground. You have to everything.
And it takes time. But we've also got the big corporates who we've adopted their philosophies because information is now readily available. So I then say, if Nike did an ad and they caused controversy, maybe I could do the same thing. Support a controversial person and my product goes. So we get mass corporations and we adopt their theories without really, once again, understanding the origins of the product.
It's distance.
Yeah.
So when you talked about force feed,
Yeah.
is we create distance because we don't care about the customer. We create
It's our
distance.
pockets.
Technology creates this distance, and again, going back to the relationships, is now we see a change. Nike engages the individual, positioning themselves that all humans are equal, and engaging in a certain, and how it just opens up a whole new discussion that maybe faster preserve it gives more money.
Yeah.
And that opens up a discussion. How do we position ourselves as a company? Do we want to make money, or do we create communities? Because again, being in South Africa, Ubuntu is we start from community rather than from a product. And technology and how this next generation engages, that technology is an extension of ourselves, that we have an avatar, and more or less it changes from country to country, the amount of time we spent as an avatar on the on technology and in real world. But for the previous or the Gen Zs, we'll see that being in a virtual world, engaging in a virtual world, will be more or less the same time that we spent real life.
Because it's going to be more real. Well, hear me when I say real. I say it's not real, but it's going to be so advanced in technology that I can sit on a virtual couch speaking to you in a virtual world, and I can see you. So,
look at Sims.
I would engage
the game, the one they've created, where people now go into virtual rooms and you can actually live your life. You can be what you desire to be. The guy with the six pack.
Oh my goodness.
The guy who's muscular and whatever it is, and that takes over your understanding of what's actually really happening, or the influence. So we've become more consumers than producers.
Yeah. That's the key. It's more consumers, and for us as a younger generation, we need, and even as millennials, because we're in between the technology. There's some of our lives, or to an extent, some of our lives were post or pre-technology, and some of it is post-technology. And for us, I believe with everything in me that as millennials, we need to communicate technology right and position technology right, because this is going so fast that in how technology is developed, that we need to be very sensitive of pre-technology and post-technology, so that the essence of life and morals and values and ethics doesn't get lost. And it's the difference between consumers and contributors. That's it. That we actually cultivate, not consumers, but contributors. And that's why we give space for mistakes. That's why we give space for coaching, and rather than telling you what to do, because that's consumerism, and to extract what's inside of them.
Do we not need to go back to the dark dungeons of the libraries of this world, where we get back to a culture of reading? There's so much hidden in books. What you do find is, with the verbal and the audio communication that's coming at us, we've become consumers of other people's perspective. And like Pavlov says, stimuli and response. People have mastered the art of creating the right stimuli for us to respond to. But when we go back to the books, where people wrote, really trying to show a value system, or what was happening during that time, or how we should build in the future, without trying to influence or seek a personal agenda, then I think we need to go back to the libraries, where the knowledge base is, and the dusty books that aren't labeled with the fancy logos or whatever it is. I think they say don't judge a book by its cover. And what you do find is the knowledge base is in those old books. If we go back to the ancient times, we can track back to the Roman Empire, fast forward to now, and you'll see the difference between the change in leadership and the change in power structures in the world. But that also helps you understand and plan for the future. Understand your past, be able to plan for your future, and be effective. But then again, it's not everyone who's susceptible to that information. It's a select few. How do you work around that?
And if you put everything together, and I believe that's my passion for generations, is that if you go back to from baby boomers all the way Gen Zs, is if you put all these generations in one environment, which is going to be our organization, is if everybody actually listens very carefully to one another, if we have trust, if we have credibility, we will see the timeless principles. No matter what environments, no matter what events, no matter what changes. Yes, it develops, but we can track the essence, the timeless principles right through, having expression in different ways. If it's virtual, is it in organizational structures? if it's so industrial revolution is brilliant.
Yeah.
I believe it's massive. It made a massive impact with capitalism.
That's it.
But I believe technology is bringing something different to in the industrial revolution. But there's something right through going through that that we need to listen, even as a younger generation, to previous generation, to make sense of what is the timeless principles in leadership, and how does that have effect now? How do we articulate it in our context? Even if we're in Africa, even if we're in Europe, even though if it's in, and it's to engage just in this, with one another, with the understanding. And I think that's something that I've lost, is to actually engage in Gen X and baby boomers. Or the information is lost, the clarity of it, to actually engage with previous generations and say, but how do you see the world? Because I know what I see.
Yeah.
And
But
I
we're
grew
right.
up in
All the time. Gents, I've got to jump in.
Yeah.